I work as a security guard in a dying shopping mall. Things aren't quite as bustling here as they used to be, back when I was a kid visiting this place with my parents. Nowadays, the parking lot is pretty much empty. The big department stores have either relocated or gone bankrupt. The remaining shop owners stand at their entrances like lonely carnival barkers, waiting for someone, anyone, to walk down the mezzanine. I've even heard a few of them shouting at people, trying to get them to buy something. As if that would ever work. If people see something good here, they just go home and order it on Amazon or Temu. My job is to patrol this decaying shrine to corporate enlightenment, and to keep the riffraff out. There's fewer and fewer troublemakers these days, though. Even the shit disturbers don't want to be seen hanging out at the mall anymore.
Are you working on that stupid book again?
My coworker Ralph slobbered into the radio, and I could hear his saliva hitting the mic with each word. Ralph had the grossest habit of spitting when he talked. The worst was when he was eating. I refused to be in the same room with him at lunchtime anymore. Are you spying on me again? I said back, looking around for witnesses, then looking up at the domed security camera and giving it the finger.
Hey, and no, I'm not. I'm working on an incident report.
And what incident happened in that little 10 by 10 room in the past half hour that you need to write a report about? He hesitated for a few moments, then said,
I'm not watching you.
So, you can't see this? I stuck up my other middle finger and made the two hands dance back and forth like glow sticks at a rave. At exactly that moment, a mother and two small children walked through the entrance. She scowled at me, grabbed their hands, and left without a word.
Nice job, Jay. There goes the only customer for today.
Thought you weren't watching, Ralph.
I'm not. I just come back to the office, will ya? I want to take my break.
I sighed, shaking my head. Ralph, come on, man. We've been over this. Just go for your break.
But Raymond said...
Raymond isn't here. He's never here. So just go for your break. I'll be out here patrolling. If I miss a phone call or someone comes by the office to ask a question, we're not going to get in trouble.
Hey, Jay?
He whined. What?
Raymond's here. He says he wants to talk to you.
I gave a rage-filled look up at the domed security camera. Has he been there the whole time? My boss Raymond's voice spoke into the radio now.
Get your ass back to the office, Jay. Right now.
I got up and did as I was told. Screw this job. I really needed to go back to school. When I got back to the office, I was surprised to find Raymond wasn't that mad. He was a little mad, but seemed to be hiding it well. And I realized what that meant. He needed something. Specifically, he needed something from me. Jay, we've talked about using obscene gestures at work, he gently scolded. And about making sure someone's always in the office in case of an emergency. Sorry, Raymond. I apologize, feeling like a kid in school again. Raymond insisted that we use his full name. I tried to call him Ray a few times, but he always corrected me. I was half surprised he didn't make us call him Mr. Davidson. I know this place can get a little boring, he began, but the Christmas season's coming up, and that means it's going to be busy, busy, busy. Yeah, for sure, I agreed, not sure where he was going with this. We've got a new shop opening up just for the holidays. I found out their construction people are going to be coming by tonight to get started on things. Okay, cool. That's good. Yeah, he agreed. Now, I've already spoken with Ralph, and unfortunately, he's got his daughter's ballet recital tonight, so... I looked to see Ralph slipping out the door, ever so quietly. He did not have a daughter, or any children. I knew this for a fact. So, what? I asked nervously, already knowing where this was going. Well, we're gonna need someone to let them in and out. The construction people. And they had a few, really specific conditions to get their work done. So, I thought, who better than our most trusted security professional to get them sorted out? What? I need you to stay and work a double, he finally spit out. Ralph will work by himself tomorrow, and then you'll come back Friday. Sound good? He was already halfway out the door. But I can't. I've got a suitable excuse didn't come to mind. Time and a half, he exclaimed, as if this made things better when I earned $10 an hour. We can't beat that. The door slammed shut behind him. Shit. I really needed to go back to school. After Ralph left that evening, the fax machine spit out a piece of paper. I held it up and read through it, recalling how my boss had told me the construction people had a few very specific conditions. He wasn't kidding. I looked through the list of instructions and read it carefully. Guidelines for night shift construction work. New shop opening. Christmas surprise. So it was one of those seasonal places opening up. Like a Spirit Halloween, but for Christmas. I read through the weird list of requirements, getting more confused by the second. Number 1. Please leave the lights off in the southern section of the mall at all times while construction work is proceeding. We will provide our own work lighting. Number 2. Do not enter the southern section of the mall during construction hours 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. Hazardous fumes may be present, and proper PPE must be worn to comply with safety regulations. Number 3. Do not disturb construction crew members or interrupt their work due to precision requirements. Number 4. Please turn off all security cameras inside the southern section of the mall and exterior of same during the above-mentioned construction hours of 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. to comply with corporate disclosure policies. Turn the cameras off? That was where I started to get nervous. The first 3 rules were odd, sure, but this last one was raising red flags. I was about to use my cell to call Raymond when the landline on the desk began to ring. It said R. Davidson on the caller ID. Hey, Raymond, I said. What's going...
Jay, listen up. I got a copy of these policies for the construction company.
Yeah, I was just about to call you about that, actually. Kind of weird, right? Especially that 4th...
Looks pretty straightforward to me.
He interrupted.
Just do what they say, and make sure you let them in at 9:30 sharp. They'll be in a white construction van at the south door. Get them inside promptly, and then make sure you're in the security office in case they need anything. I don't want to get a 3 a.m. phone call again because you're not at your post.
I hated the night shift, because there was only one guard on duty, and that person was supposed to stay in the office at all times. Of course, since I'm not a robot, I needed to use the bathroom on occasion, and I also needed to stretch my legs for the sake of my sanity. Sneaking out of the office was forbidden, but denying an employee these basic human rights was also a strict no-no according to labor laws. I had complained before about the impossibleness of this setup, and had only gotten scolded for my common sense. So I just said, "You got it, boss."
Don't let me down. This is a big client,
he said, right before he hung up. I don't think the man had ever said the words thank you once in his life. He was kind of a prick. The construction crew showed up a few minutes early, but luckily I was there waiting for them. The 4 guys pulled the back of their van up to the set of glass double doors on the right. I opened them up, and a few seconds later, one of the construction guys was pushing me aside. "We got it from here, kid," the man with a gold tooth and greasy black hair said, smiling. "Thanks for the help." The rest of them got out of the van as well, pulling up hoods to cover themselves from the cold wind. As I was heading back towards the office, the guy with the gold tooth called after me. "Oh, by the way." I turned around and looked at him again. "You got that thing we faxed over, right?" "Yeah, I got it. Shouldn't be a problem." He smiled, showing another gold tooth tucked further back. "Perfect. That's just perfect. Have a good night, kid. We'll call you in the office if we need anything." I nodded, feeling uneasy. His gold-toothed smile and vulture-like face was creeping me out. He kind of reminded me of Joe Pesci at the start of Home Alone, when he was pretending to be a cop and scoping out the McAllister's mansion. I turned around again and started walking back towards the security office. Right before I stepped inside, I risked one last look back at the construction crew. They were all just standing there, watching me, waiting for me to go away. I stepped into the office and shut the door behind me. My curiosity gnawing at me, I instinctively looked at the camera feeds for that section of the mall. But the screens were all black and empty, and they would remain that way until morning. I didn't even have the passwords to reset them myself. I sighed and slumped down into the creaky office chair, then stared at the empty camera feeds. When I went for a bathroom break an hour later, mostly just curious what those guys were up to and wanting to sneak a peek, I was surprised to see their progress. The construction crew had already erected large wooden barricades to block the view from passerbys. The new shop was to be the closest one to the south entrance, so their barricades were blocking half the doors. If they were still there in the morning, those wheelchair-accessible doors would be totally unusable. What the hell? I said to myself quietly. Just then, the landline phone started to ring in the office. I barely heard it from the mezzanine and ran back to answer it. "Hello?" I said, half out of breath once I got back and picked it up. I think I caught it on the very last ring before the voicemail kicked in.
"Jay, what are you doing out of the office?"
Raymond's voice scolded me from the other end of the line. "Jeez, I left to go to the bathroom for 2 seconds, Ray."
"Raymond,"
he corrected quickly.
"I got another fax from the construction company. Apparently they're putting up some sort of wooden barricade. But don't worry, he'll be gone by morning. Something about safety protocols."
"Isn't that a little weird?" I said nervously. "Isn't all of this a little weird, Raymond? And those construction guys give me a bad vibe."
"What? A bad... Look, I don't really have time for this right now, Jay. I'm very busy. Just make sure you're in the office in case anyone calls. Keep an eye on the cameras. That's your job, remember?"
I sighed. "Yeah, I remember. Thanks, Raymond." I hung up the phone and stared at the video monitors. It was going to be a very, very long night. 2 hours later, when I couldn't hold it in anymore, I finally left the office to use the restroom, hoping Raymond wouldn't call again to check up on me at exactly that moment. He didn't. Maybe he'd gone to bed already. I considered going on a patrol to see what those guys were up to, but I didn't want to get in trouble with the boss again. So I went back to the office and popped another DVD into the portable player I'd brought from home. I'd burned 3 seasons of Cops onto a few discs and was binge-watching all of them in order. That would hopefully get me through the night. By 3 a.m., I was sick of Cops and never wanted to watch another episode again in my life. I pulled out a book, but couldn't force myself to sit still long enough to read a page of it. I needed to stretch my legs. I was going stir-crazy in this little windowless box. It didn't help that I'd already been here for over 20 straight hours. 12-hour doubles should be illegal. Maybe they are. I've never actually checked. There was zero chance of Raymond calling at this time of night, I told myself. And the construction guys didn't need anything. If they did, they could leave a voicemail and I'd call them back. I decided to go for a patrol around the mall. That would kill at least 30 minutes. By the time I got back, there would only be 3.5 hours to go until day shift arrived. And besides, I needed to do something to break up the monotony. Exiting through the door near the security office on the north side, I figured I'd take a lap around the mall and then re-enter through any south doors that weren't blocked off by the construction barricades. That way, I could take a peek at whatever the hell those construction guys were up to. The wind was cold and threatened to rip the door from my hands when I opened it to go outside, but I held on tight and forced it shut, locking it again with my GM key. For anyone out there who hasn't worked security before, a GM key is a Grand Master key. It allows you access to pretty much every door in a building or on a particular site. So, in this case, I had access to every store, restaurant, and back room in the entire mall. It sounds like a lot of fun, I know. But when a guy like Raymond is your boss, and you have no freedom, it's really not much fun at all. The best part of the night shift was usually going outside for a patrol and getting some fresh air for a little while. But even that was spoiled when I came around the west exterior corner and saw the south entrance of the mall. There was a black van pulling away from the entrance, and another one pulling in to take its place, butting up against the south doorway. 2 more vans were waiting in a line for their turn. What the hell? I whispered to myself, taking it all in. Raymond had said there would be 1 white construction van, but now there were almost half a dozen black work vans as well. And the strangest thing about it was what they were doing. They pulled up to the back of the mall with their taillights right up against the doorway, and then stayed there with the engines running for a minute or two before taking off, each time to be quickly replaced by another black van. No way were they dropping off merchandise or equipment at that rate, unless each van only contained a few simple items. My curiosity was peaking hard. I genuinely couldn't comprehend what they were doing. I decided to get a bit closer, sticking to the shadows of the gardens around the high brick walls of the mall. Before I knew it, I was only 20 yards away, hiding in some trees near a beat-up picnic table where some employees liked to smoke. From there, I could hear creaking movement from inside the van, along with some strange, muffled noises. It almost sounded like whimpering or crying. And then the van drove off and was gone into the night. That was the last one, I realized. And now the doorway was wide open, leading into a black abyss. I found myself wandering over to the south entrance, looking around for signs of anyone lingering. There was nobody nearby. For a few long seconds, I just stood there at the south door, trying to decide what to do next. Don't ask me why, but I started walking into the dark, barricaded construction area, through the forbidden entryway, my knees wobbly and my legs unsteady. I was tempted to pull out my flashlight for a second, but thought better of it. Something told me whatever was happening here wasn't right, and I needed to stay quiet and hidden. Several more steps into the darkness, I started feeling even more nervous. The hairs on the back of my neck were standing on end, and my stomach was twisting into knots. I stopped and looked back at the doorway, at the snow which had just started falling gently outside. It would be so easy to turn around right now and go back, to walk back to the office and plop down in the chair and watch TV until daybreak came. Part of me really wanted to do just that. But Then I thought about that scared whimpering sound I'd heard, and turned back to face the darkness. I continued on until I reached the vacant store, which would become Christmas surprise. Peeking around the corner nervously, I hoped no one would be waiting for me, watching for intruders. But there was no one, and the vacant store was in a strange state. Floor tiles had been torn up, and there was a hole leading into the ground. I wandered over to look down into the abyss, and saw a ladder had been left there for people to climb up and down into this deep, dark pit. What the hell? I whispered to myself again. This was all so strange. It felt like I was dreaming. But the smell of construction dust in my nostrils and the pain in my aching feet and back told me it was real. I couldn't go down that ladder. That was stupid. If I did that and these people were really up to no good, they could just pull up that ladder and leave me trapped down there. Or worse, they could confront me down there and kill me. What was I thinking? I realized I was being foolish. These were just ordinary construction workers. Whatever they were doing was probably for a good reason. Maybe they were installing some sort of animatronic Santa or a horsey ride or something. Something that required a strong concrete foundation. They were probably doing something completely normal, and I was just overreacting. Maybe it was time to turn back and go to the office. To forget all about this silly... A sound like muffled crying could be heard from down inside that dark hole. It made my skin break out in goosebumps, and made my stomach turn in knots when I heard it. There was no denying that sound. But then another noise came from behind me, which filled me with even more dread. The sound of footsteps approaching in the darkness. They were coming from behind me. I went as quickly as possible to the left side of the store and hid behind a steel support pillar. It was a really terrible hiding place, but it was dark in there, and I hoped whoever was coming wouldn't spot me. The person who entered the abandoned store was wearing all black and had their face covered with a ski mask. Instead of going to the ladder, they looked around the store, scanning from left to right. My heart skipped a beat as their eyes passed over my hiding place, and I tried to make myself as small as possible. I waited for them to come for me, for a cold hand to grab my shoulder and ask me what the hell I was doing there. But instead, the person's footsteps began to recede away from me, to the other side of the store. I risked a look out again, and saw they were sorting through several outfits which were hanging on the wall over there. After picking one out and putting it on, they added an accompanying mask. The whole outfit reminded me of one of those guards from Squid Game, except it was black instead of hot pink. The person climbed down the ladder afterwards and was gone. I thought for a few long seconds about what I should do next. I was already in over my head. This was not normal construction work. Someone was in trouble down there. Something very wrong was happening here. But what was it? If I wanted to go to the cops, I would need more than this vague assumption that something fishy was going on. Looking at my hiding spot, I realized I couldn't stay where I was. The next person who came in would spot me for sure. But if I left and ran into someone on the way out, what then? I decided to throw on one of those black Squid Game looking outfits. The dark mesh mask covered my whole face when I put it on, but I realized I could see easily through the pinprick holes. Now, I just needed to walk out of here and... A voice began speaking in my ear, calm and authoritative, and strangely familiar. I couldn't place where I'd heard it before, but I had definitely heard it before.
Good. You're early. Go down and see what they have.
I froze, my heart beating even faster now. My legs were shaking as I tried to move, but found myself unable to.
Hello? Can you hear me? Go down the ladder and see what they have.
The voice was getting angry now, and I realized this was someone very impatient, who was used to getting exactly what they wanted at all times. I better do what they were saying, or things could get ugly fast. More footsteps were coming from the mall entrance, and I realized I only had one choice. I wandered over to the ladder and started climbing down into the darkness, feeling like my legs were made of jello. I was worried my fingers or my feet would betray me, and I would end up plummeting down into the abyss. But fortunately, I managed to hang on and eventually reached the nearly pitch-black bottom. From there, I saw a light source up ahead and began to walk toward it. Thankfully, the voice did not seem to mind my silence, and it actually seemed to be expected that I stay quiet.
Why don't you make your way up to that first shop on your left?
He said casually, as I tried to take in the strange scene unfolding in front of me. We were in a cellar which had been dug from the dirt beneath the mall, the ceiling supported by heavy-duty jacks, with work lights illuminating the space in harsh yellow light. Huge men dressed all in black were standing at intervals around the perimeter of the room. They wore guns on their belts and looked like very expensive, high-end security guards. The kind that don't ask questions. There were women down there as well, although they did not look to be there by choice. Lulu Limes, said the sign above the first one I approached, and I saw the girl was dressed in yoga pants and workout clothing. She looked to be just barely over the age of 18, and was trying not to cry. The girl stood there, posing for me, and I realized there had to be some sort of webcam attached to the outfit I was wearing. The voice in my ear spoke again, sounding disinterested.
Too plain,
he said simply.
What else do they have?
The next girl was beneath a sign reading, Forever Under 21. She was dressed in goth clothing and had facial piercings and black hair. Her smile looked forced.
Not my type,
the man said in my ear.
Next.
A blonde girl at the next shop was beautiful with soft features and blue eyes. She was wearing a short jean skirt and a pink, flowery, spaghetti-strap tank top. The man in my ear whistled softly when he saw her.
That's the one,
he said.
Get that one, before someone else scoops her up.
Disgusted and horrified by all of this, I wished I could do something to help these girls. But what? There were armed men all around. If I tried to free them, I'd just get myself killed. And maybe a few of them, too. The best bet for now, I decided, was to go with the flow. The man in my ear was already growing impatient, and was starting to ask what was taking so long. So I raised my hand and signaled one of the black-clothed bouncers. He came over and looked at the girl.
This one?
I nodded silently, and he put a sticker on her shoulder which read, Sold.
Van will be waiting out back,
the man in front of me said. And I realized the other voice, the one in my ear, was gone now. Another guard began marching the girl back towards the ladder, and I followed behind. Glancing around the room again quickly, I tried to take in all the details of what was down there. I wished I could take a picture to show the police, but I couldn't. They would have to take my word for it. This was clearly some kind of black market operation. A store for the ultra-wealthy to pick and choose who they wanted for a human pet. I wanted to puke. As I glanced around the room one last time, I was surprised to see a familiar face that I hadn't noticed before. Raymond. He was standing next to one of the black-clothed guards who looked to be in charge. The two of them were whispering back and forth, and Raymond was actually smiling. The fucking prick was enjoying himself. It took every ounce of restraint I had not to walk over there and punch the man in the mouth. All those weird rules and conditions for this fake store, he'd been behind all of it. He'd known the whole time what they were planning to do here. He was probably getting paid some ungodly sum to facilitate the whole secret operation, and to keep quiet about all this. Of course, that secret basement and the tunnel leading down there couldn't have been put in without someone on the inside. Of course it would be Raymond. What a piece of shit. I heard the bouncer near the ladder clear his throat, and looked to see he was waiting for me. Once I'd caught up, he climbed the ladder first, and the girl followed after. I went up behind her and found them both at the top, waiting for me. The man led us out to a black van, which was pulled up to the south entrance, then opened the rear cargo doors. I jumped in surprise when I saw the figure staring at me from the back of the vehicle. Then I settled down after a moment, realizing what I was looking at. Inside the van was a female mannequin, standing with its arms out like the Vitruvian Man, and being held in place by belts and bungee cords. The large security guard opened the mannequin up like a book, revealing a hollow space inside. "Get in," he told the girl, and she hesitated for only a second before doing as he asked. Her scared face disappeared as the man closed the mannequin shut, with the girl still trapped inside. "Hope your boss enjoys his purchase. Thanks for shopping with us at the Southside Mall." And with that, the bouncer walked away, disappearing into the shadows of the construction area. I was left alone with the girl trapped inside the mannequin and the van. I climbed inside and shut the doors behind me. I wasn't sure what else to do, or who might be watching at this point. All of those guards had been heavily armed, and I didn't think they'd hesitate about taking me out if they knew who I was. Clearly, they'd mistaken me for some ultra-rich guy's servant or butler or something. But now? What was going to happen next? The van suddenly started to move, and I realized there was someone sitting up in the driver's seat. A man dressed in a similar outfit as what I was wearing. He pulled the van away from the south door, and another van quickly took our place. More ultra-rich bastards coming in to take their purchased prizes home with them. I looked nervously at the mannequin, and heard the girl's muffled crying coming from inside. Could she breathe okay in there? I wanted to save her, and all those other girls from being taken away. I had a strong feeling their families were out there looking for them, and that none of these girls were here of their own free will. The driver had a pistol on his waistband. I could see it from where I was sitting in the back of the van. If I did anything wrong, or hinted that I wasn't who I was supposed to be, I was done for. We drove in silence for a while, as the windshield wipers squeaked and the snow whipped past in flurries. Finally, after driving for a while, we stopped on the side of the road in the middle of nowhere. There was a barren field to our right, and a barn to the left of the road. I just sat there nervously, waiting to see what the driver would say. I was terrified that the next words out of my mouth could be the wrong words. That if I said anything remotely wrong, the driver would know and would shoot me on the spot. Thankfully, after a while, he spoke first. "Guess your chopper's running late. I have to wait till it gets here." I stayed quiet. "Your boss ain't listening anymore, dude. You're good." I opened my mouth and then closed it again. What if he knew this guy's voice? What if he could tell right away that I wasn't who I said I was? Thoughts were racing through my head as I tried to figure out a plan. Once this helicopter showed up, I was screwed. I needed to figure out some way to get rid of this driver so I could save the girl and get her out of this mess. But how? Just then, my cell phone rang. Hands shaking, I pulled it from my pocket. R. Davidson, it said on the call display.
Your boss?
The driver questioned. Yeah, I nodded.
Better answer it. These rich fucks hate to be left waiting.
With my trembling thumb, I hit the accept button and put the phone up to my ear.
Jay, where the hell are you? The construction guys called the office, and guess what? You're not there. They need those south doors locked up again.
Sorry, I began, but he cut me off before I could get another word out.
I don't want to hear excuses. Just get your ass over there, now.
I will, I said back. Right now. He hung up the phone.
He sounded pissed,
the driver said from up front.
What's going on?
Out of nowhere, an idea came to me. He said the chopper got called back due to weather. Big storm coming in. He said to take the van. The driver turned around to look at me suspiciously.
Take the van? How the hell am I supposed to get back?
I replied callously, and without any sympathy, just like how the rest of these people acted. Walk. After a few minutes of huffing and puffing, the driver relented and handed me the keys. He got out and gave me an odd, slightly suspicious look as I drove away. When we were far enough from that place, I took off that strange Squid Game-style mask. I threw it into the snow at the side of the road, worried about who might be listening or watching through the webcam attached to it. Then, a little bit further down the road, I pulled over and went into the back. Prying open the mannequin with my fingertips, I saw the girl's scared face looking at me from inside. She cringed back when I reached out my hand. "I've got you," I said to her. "You're safe now." "What? How? Who are you?" she managed to say. The fact that I was showing my face to her seemed to prove that maybe I wasn't one of those horrible people. I pulled down the collar of that strange black outfit to show her the embroidered writing on my shirt. "I'm Jay Grupe, mall security, at your service." Her eyes rolled back in her head, and I thought for a second that she'd fainted, but then realized she was just very unimpressed. "Seriously? You risked your life to save me from those psychos, and you're just what? A rent-a-cop mall security guard? Is that what you were gonna say?" Now it was her turn to look a bit embarrassed. No. It's just that... Never mind." We both looked at each other uncertainly for a second. "Well, what now?" she said. "What now?" Despite all the effort I'd put in, I'd never really given much thought to what was going to happen after I saved this girl. Where the hell was I supposed to take her now? "Where do your parents live?" I asked after a few moments. Then I thought better of it. "Actually, no. Don't tell me. If those guys figure out who I am, they might try to get that out of me somehow. Through torture." The ramifications of what I'd done were starting to sink in finally. "Come on, get up front. I'll drive you back to the mall." She clenched her fists and squinted her eyes, looking ready to hit me. "No, not like that. I mean, my car is there. You can take my car. Drive it wherever you need to. You need it more than I do." Her expression softened. "Really? Thank you." She got up front and sat in the passenger seat, while I started up the engine again and began to drive, heading back towards the mall. We started chatting a bit just to pass the time, and I asked her what her name was and what her hobbies were. You know, just idle chit-chat. She reluctantly told me that her name was Sarah, and she liked to read. She didn't have many friends, on account of their family always moving around so much. I could relate to that. I didn't have many friends when I was her age either. Books were always my best friends too. After a few minutes of driving, I suddenly saw headlights in the rearview mirror, coming up fast behind us. I moved over to the other lane, hoping it was just an impatient driver looking to pass. They veered over to the new lane as well, still coming up fast behind us until our bumpers were practically touching. Shit, I muttered. Shit. What? Sarah asked, looking back over her shoulder. It's them, I said, gripping the wheel tighter and stepping on the gas. Hang on, I'm gonna try and lose them. The big van was heavy, but it had some horsepower. I floored the gas pedal, and the speedometer needle started ticking upwards, until we were traveling over 100 miles an hour down the country highway. Fortunately, the road was deserted at this time of night, although I wouldn't have complained if I saw a cop right now. The vehicle behind us was matching our speed, and I realized it was another one of those black vans, the same as the one we were driving, which meant they were just as fast, if not faster. Suddenly, after many tense moments of driving bumper to bumper with the other vehicle, they made a sharp turn and clipped us at the back. The huge work van began spinning out of control on the icy road, and I felt the two left wheels leave the ground for a split second as we almost tipped over. Thankfully, we didn't, and instead wound up stalled at the side of the road, facing backwards the way we'd come. My head had slammed into the window, and I was seeing stars. When my vision cleared, I looked ahead and saw a very familiar man approaching the van. He ripped my driver's side door open and hauled me out, throwing me hard to the frozen ground. "You took my goddaughter," he said, pointing a pistol at my face. "Now, I'm going to kill you." His finger was squeezing the trigger when a voice called out from inside the van. "No!" I closed my eyes, expecting a bullet. But when I opened them, he still hadn't shot me yet. The man's finger was on the trigger, but he wasn't squeezing it all the way just yet. "Don't shoot him! He saved me from them!" Sarah was yelling, as she slid over to the driver's seat and then out of the van. "He's a good guy." The familiar-looking man raised an eyebrow at me, and I pulled down the collar of my shirt again to reveal my embroidered name badge. "J Grupe, mall security," I wheezed. "I stumbled on what they were doing down there and—" "He saved me," Sarah said again. "If it wasn't for him, I'd be on a helicopter heading to some billionaire freak's private island." The man lowered his gun and put it in his waistband. Then, after another second of looking at me, scrutinizing me, he put out his hand to help me up. I took it. I wiped the snow from my jacket and my backside, then rubbed my injured face where it had hit the window glass. I would definitely have a bruise there tomorrow. "Are you okay? Did they hurt you? Did they—" The man trailed off as he embraced his goddaughter. "No, I'm fine. I'm okay. Thanks to him." The man let go of his embrace and shook my hand dutifully. "I am forever in your debt," he said, his eyes locking onto mine. "If you ever need anything, you know where to find me." And the two of them began to walk away, towards the other van. "Actually, do you have a business card or, like, a number?" They were already gone. As their taillights faded into the distance, I was left alone with the black van and the cold, howling wind. When I went to start the van again, The engine wouldn't turn over. No matter how many times I tried, it wouldn't come to life. Perfect, I said, climbing out and beginning the long walk back towards the mall. That's just perfect. Eventually, after a very long walk, I arrived back at the mall again. The sun was threatening to crest the horizon, and I was scared to look at the time on my phone. I probably had 50 missed calls from Raymond. Shit. What the hell was I going to do about Raymond? Call the cops? What would I say? I decided that was a problem for another time. Right now, I had to worry about myself. The possibility of frostbite wasn't out of the question. I needed to get inside and warm up. It had been a very long walk, and I hadn't been dressed for it properly. I entered through the still open south doors and found that the construction barricades were gone. I closed and locked the doors behind me out of habit and marched down the mezzanine, right past the new Christmas surprise store, to find that it was somehow perfectly organized and stocked with merchandise, despite the short amount of time that had passed. The floor was all put back together, tiled and polished, looking just as it had the day before the construction crew had torn it to pieces. I stopped and stood there for a few long seconds, just staring at the new store. How could they have done all this work in such a short time? It was impossible. The store was filled with tacky Christmas decor, boxes of candy canes and lights. There were polished, colorful, oversized nutcracker soldiers behind the glass display windows, alongside mannequins wearing red winter coats with white trim, and signs reading 50% off all holiday wear, now until December 25th. I shook my head, looking at it all with disbelief. Shuffling back to the office, I unlocked the door and plunked down in the rolling desk chair. My portable DVD player was still sitting there, the DVD logo bouncing back and forth on the light blue screen. The list of rules for the new store's construction caught my eye, still sitting on the desk from the night prior, what felt like a lifetime ago. For some odd reason, I started reading through them again, and number 2 caught my eye. Rule number 2. Do not enter the southern section of the mall during construction hours, 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. Hazardous fumes may be present, and proper PPE must be worn to comply with safety regulations. Suddenly, it felt like my head was clearing from the haze. The weird masks with the pinprick holes, the human auction, the strange man stopping the van and taking his goddaughter back. Had all of that just been hallucinations, brought on by some hazardous chemical fumes? Had I just fallen asleep in the chair in the office and dreamed the whole thing? It suddenly seemed possible. Except, I looked down and realized I was still wearing that weird Squid Game style outfit. I tossed the mask out the window, but the rest of it was still on me. Shit. Okay. Well, it definitely wasn't a dream, I guess. Raymond could be here any second. If he saw me wearing this getup, he'd... I heard shuffling feet on the other side of the security office door. I imagined Raymond standing on the other side, pulling a gun from his waistband and pointing it at me as he entered, speaking in a Russian accent into a walkie-talkie. I have got him. He's in the security office. I'll take care of him. He pulls the trigger and I see a flash of white and fall backwards, tipping over in my chair. Blood pooling around my body as I look up at his sick, smiling face. But none of that happened. As the door opened, I saw that it was Ralph standing on the other side. My spitting, stinky coworker, Ralph. He looked me up and down, taking in my outfit. "What were you doing? Cosplaying Squid Games in here?" he joked, sitting down in the other chair. I stuttered and finally managed to say, "Yeah, something like that." "Weird. Alright, give me the nitty-gritty. Anything interesting happened last night?" I sat there for a few seconds, running over possible answers in my head. After a while, I just said, "Nothing much. How was your daughter's ballet recital?" He smirked. "Sorry, man. I just couldn't do it again. I got stuck working a double last year when they opened up one of those dumb stores. Same spot, actually." "Really? Did you, see anything strange by any chance?" "Huh? No, just stayed in the office mostly. Did a Liam Neeson binge. Watched all the Taken movies and, that other one. The Gray. But nothing weird with those construction guys? Nah, I just opened the doors and locked them again after, like they said." "Why? Did something happen?" There was no way I was going to tell Ralph, of all people, what happened last night. "Nah, nothing. Just boring, like you said." "Tell me about it, man. I just couldn't do it again this year. I said the first thing I could think of to get out of it. I'll cover for you next year, promise." I thought about that and shook my head. "No, that's alright," I said. "Next year, I'll take the shift again. I want to." Ralph looked at me strangely. "I thought you were going back to school," he chided. "I thought you said you had more important things to do than hang around this dump. You were gonna go find some career that doesn't pay minimum wage. Isn't that what you said?" "Yeah, I did say that. But I think I might have changed my mind." I got up and pulled off the outfit, stuffing it into my bag. I'd have to make some calls about it, see what I could find out. Thankfully, I now had a very powerful ally who owed me a favor, and I had a feeling he might want to help out either way. He, of all people, would want to figure out who these freaks were, the ones running the auction. Not to mention the identities of the buyers. I thought back to that familiar voice speaking in my ear. The rich man who thought he could buy people for his own sick, twisted purposes. The sound of his voice was burned into my memory, and I would find him. I'd stop them before they could hurt anyone else. "See you tomorrow?" Ralph said, sipping his morning coffee. "See you tomorrow, Ralph. Bright and early." And with that, I stepped out of the security office and through the mall's doors, into the blowing snow. It looked like a storm was coming after all.
Become a channel member today for early access, bonus videos, and special emojis only available to members. Check out the description below or click the join button for more info. If you'd like another way to help support the channel, please consider joining my Patreon page at patreon.com/Jordan Group Horror. As a patron, you'll get access to bonus videos and content. You'll be credited at the end of every video going forward, and if you decide to stay for 3 months, I'll name a character after you which will be featured in a Hollow's End story. Links to join the Patreon are in the description. Thanks everyone for listening. Please like, subscribe, and comment to help the channel continue to grow, and see you again next time at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Hope you have a great night.